Welcome back to Eliances Heroes, where heroes in business align. To be part of our super community and find out more about Eliances, visit www.Eliances.com. Now, back to our super host, David Cogan, founder of Eliances.
That's right. What an incredible morning it's been of heroes. We had Potsy from Happy Days. We had the 7-time lottery grand prize winner, 4-time Inc. 500 software founder. Next week, we're going to have the current president of the United Nations. But listen up close, because our next hero, whom I think every time I ever turn on the news, I see or hear him, is the former Speaker of the House of Representatives. That's right, Newt Gingrich, who is known for so many things: FDA reforms, helping to save Medicare from bankruptcy. Newt, this is a gigantic responsibility, having been Speaker of the House. Knowing what you do affects millions of Americans. Explain about the pressures of being in a position like that and how the best way one can cope with it, work with it.
Well, I can't talk for others. In my case, I don't feel much of it as pressure. First of all, I have a great faith in God, and I normally allow Him to deal with most of the consequences. I grew up in an infantry family. My dad spent 27 years in the Army, and that was real pressure. I mean, he was in combat, and he understood pretty decisively how real the pressure could be. So compared to his life, I've had relatively modest amounts of pressure. It does require me on some occasion to resort to prayer as a way of trying, when I have on occasion had things that are so overwhelming, I just had to literally pull out and say, look, I can't deal with this. So I've got to go to a higher being to deal with it. But most of the time, I describe myself as a 4-year-old who gets up in the morning knowing that somewhere there's a cookie, and my job is to spend all day finding the cookie. And I'm very fortunate. I've had a wonderful life, done a lot of productive, creative things, and have a great family. And so I would say most of the time what other people think of as pressure, I just think of as work.
And you're also the co-founder of Advocates for Opioid Recovery, ACR. In fact, you're involved with Van Jones, who we had recently on the air, and Patrick Kennedy, who will also be on in a few weeks. Tell us about this organization. Again, people can go to opioidrecovery.org or Eliances.com to be able to link to that. Tell us about this organization and why you got involved.
Well, let me commend you for having Van Jones and Patrick Kennedy on. Each of them in their own way does heroic things. Van Jones' commitment to helping the very poor and to developing an opportunity for people to live better lives is just amazing. And I have the deepest respect for him, and I've learned so much from him. Patrick Kennedy has had the courage not only to deal with his own addictions, but also to take that painfully hard-won experience and turn it into a real dedication to brain science and a real dedication to helping people better understand the importance of including mental health as an integral part of how we think about people. So I feel very honored to be able to work with two people of that caliber and that dedication. And we get actively involved. First of all, as you know, because in Arizona, you are dealing directly with the whole crisis of opioid epidemics. I think of your 15 counties, 7 of them are in the red zone, which is a category that represents the highest death rates due to drug addiction in the country, with over 20 deaths per 100,000 residents. When you're looking at that and you realize that there's a really significant challenge in how we're approaching it and what we have to do about it, I think that given my long interest in public health policy, I once founded the Center for Health Transformation, and way back in 2002, I wrote a book called Saving Lives and Saving Money, trying to outline how we could get to a better health system. So I've had a real passion about health, and I've also co-chaired with Democratic Senator Bob Kerrey a 3-year working group on long-term care and a 3-year working group on Alzheimer's. And so my interest in things that affect the brain are very real and very deep. And what is doubly difficult is that a great deal of what currently happens with opioid addiction can be, I think, handled much, much better. With the science and the breakthroughs we're getting in medicine would allow us to have a much better approach. And all too often, it is public policies which block us from the effective use of modern science to help save lives. And let me just say, to give you a sense of how personal and how real this is, a very, very good friend of ours had their daughter, who had just gotten out of college, die of an opioid overdose 2 weeks ago.
Oh, sorry to hear.
And when you're faced at that level head on, you realize that this is an epidemic that knows no boundaries. It's not a respecter of race or education level or income. It's a genuine threat that people have got to deal with and have to recognize how truly serious it is.
And you're listening to Eliances. Are you a hero in business? Make sure you go to Eliances.com. That's Eliances.com. If you're a builder and you're doing something for your community like Newt is, make sure you go to Eliances. We're speaking with Newt Gingrich, the former Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives. In fact, you've had such a successful career. You've received so many awards from the American Diabetes Association, the highest non-medical award, March of Dimes, Citizen of the Year, in fact, even Time Magazine of the Year. Your two daughters are also very successful. Provide our listeners with some secrets, perhaps, of how other parents that are listening today can raise their children to be good citizens and contributors to our society like you have been.
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't want to take total credit, nor do I want people to think that our good fortune necessarily is something that we have earned. A lot of times it's a gift of God, and sometimes you are blessed beyond anything you could have earned. I think that's an important thing to understand. And in addition, I did go through a divorce with their mother at a point when they were teenagers, and so she deserves a great deal of the credit for having done a wonderful job, an amazing job of helping raise them. I tried to emphasize with both of them focusing on them when it really mattered. So if one of them had ballet practice, and I would go and I would sit and I'd be part of a small audience. I remember one time taking Jackie, who was the younger one, to watch her sister, who was performing The Little Match Girl. And there's a scene, as you may remember, where the Little Match Girl ultimately dies, freezes to death. And when Kathy, the older one, fell to the floor, having died at the end of this marvelous ballet, her sister broke into tears because she's sitting there watching her sister die. And I had to grab her and hold her and tell her, it's okay. She's going to get up in a second. Don't it'll be all right. So I think part of it is, I'd say to any parent who's listening, try to figure out the times that matter to your children, and then turn off the TV, put down the book, give up whatever your hobby is, and focus on them. With my younger daughter, Jackie, at one point she was about 11, and she got to be in the college play South Pacific as one of the Polynesian children. And after the play had performed 5 or 6 times and I'd gone to see it, they were going to have a cast party. Well, here are all these college students, and back then they could all legally drink, and this was at Cal, Georgia. And my 11-year-old daughter wanted to go to the cast party. So I said, all right, let me clear my schedule. I'm taking you to the cast party, which is one of my favorite memories. I think they watched Godzilla Eats Manhattan or something as part of the cast party. But those kind of bonding moments where your children know you really care and that there's a genuine human bond. It's not just, getting through the day, I think really matters. But the other thing I would say with great humility, because I have 2 grandchildren who are 13 and just turned 14 and almost 17. You have to have a little bit of humility. We live in a dangerous world. I trusted my 2 daughters, but I also understood both in high school and then even more in college. They were beyond my control. We had to have done a good enough job communicating with them by the time they were 13 or 14, because there was a morning when you actually don't control them. And I had the same worries any other parent has about whether or not they'd end up, doing dumb things, or they'd end up, out on the road and getting hit by a drunk driver, or all the things that threaten us today. And certainly with this opioid epidemic, every parent has to have a level of concern, and that relates to your children all the way up into their 30s and 40s. So this is not an epidemic of the inner city. It's not an epidemic of the young. We have in small-town America a number of people in their 40s and 50s who are getting caught up in this. And so you have to approach realizing how dangerous life can be, even in the most prosperous and most successful country in the world. There are still human dangers that threaten those you love.
Newt, I mean, such incredible advice, something that all of us could use. Absolutely. I mean, you're also an author, you're a Fox News contributor, you do so much. I wish we can have you on the entire show. You've got, I mean, it's just so much that could really help everyone. In fact, too, someone who has dedicated their life to help the American people, knowing that while some may not agree with all the policies, you push through to do what you believe is right. It's someone who has guts, and that's our hero today, Newt Gingrich. You can go to Eliances.com or go to opioidrecovery.org. We'll also have the link on Eliances.com, the place where entrepreneurs align. Thank you again, David Cogan with Eliances, and thank you to our producer, Glue at LoopyDocs.com for all your editing needs.
You have been listening to Eliances Heroes, where heroes in business align. Eliances is the destination for entrepreneurs, investors, CEOs, inventors, leaders, celebrities, and startups. To present your superpower, visit www.Eliances.com. To unmask Eliances heroes' secret identities, be sure to tune in every Thursday at 9 a.m. right here on Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.